Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. If you are watching on YouTube, and you see a little link down below, you can click on it and you'll end up in Zoom. If you're watching in Zoom, you might see another link down below, and you can click on it and you can enter Mukana. And in Mukana, you can actually ask questions and vote on those questions. And this whole show is your questions. It's what you're asking. So there's not really any other, we don't have any grand plan here other than to answer your questions about media and virtual production. Now, if you think you can answer some of those questions, you can come in early. 6:40 a.m. Pacific Standard Time is when you have to be here, but you can get here as early as 6. And just check out and make sure that your kit is ready and that you're ready to jump into the panel. Now, at 7 o'clock, we do the... that's when we start doing general Q&A, and then we start going into something more specific. Today, we'll have education from 8 o'clock until 10 or 9:45 or so. And it's gotten pretty interesting. We're talking a lot, actually, specifically about how would we redesign a specific classroom opportunity. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, as well as answer any questions that come up or any comments around education. And then at 10 o'clock, Nick Jesterson is going to come in and talk about Unreal. And Nick is going to be discussing Unreal for the last time for about a month. Nick is in the Epic Fellowship, and he's just drinking from a fire hose, and as well as doing a little work for me. So at the same time, and so we're gonna give him a break for a month, let him get through all of that. But he'll have a lot to share when he gets out at the other end. So, but if you have any final questions about Unreal, definitely bring them up today. Then we'll take a little bit of a break. At 3 o'clock, you'll start to hear, the comms will open up for Mad in the Kitchen with Madeline Smithberg, and that will start at 3. Nate Hill will be cutting again, so you get to listen to the dulcet tones of Nate Hill. Basically setting up the show, getting it ready to go. And at 5 o'clock, he'll be running the show there. Between 6 and 6:30, the show ends, and we go into post, and you can ask any questions. If you're thinking about live production, this is the show to watch right now. The behind the scenes is really, you're really going to learn a lot that you don't learn unless you're in production. So it's a really great opportunity. All right, let's jump into the questions. And I realized that I didn't ask anybody, so now I'm going to throw Guy on the
Boom,
hot plate.
ready to go.
All right, there we go.
First one coming in from Guy Cochran of Seattle. New version of Playout B just dropped for download. What's new?
What's new, Jonas?
So one of the new there are a lot of bug fixes. So auto roll is now working. The hyperdeck stop command is now no longer a stop, it's a pause. So you can fast forward to a position. That's just something I didn't know because I don't have a hyperdeck. And then there is 99% less tearing. So the tearing should be gone. There are some weird use cases where you use non-full FPS. That's something that the Pi just can't handle right now. Then it can now play MP3 files. You can use /timecode to get the timecode of the remaining timecode and the timecode of the file and the file name. So you can give that to a producer and he can't mess it up, but he can know when it's over. And then the HTTP API was improved. So now I have a Stream Deck where you can play, pause, stop, change clip.
Yeah,
I just want a big graphic. When I heard it, I just wanted a huge graphic. Says Playout B now with less tearing. That's great. I think the biggest feature for me though is being have the auto start. So the auto start works now. So you can just when it's tied in, that's huge. It's really great. Fantastic. It just works. Fantastic. I'm proposing in the company now I'll take a picture when we get it up. I'm just trying to get the budget right now from my boss to put in the whole rack of Playout Bs. Go ahead, Rupert.
Is there like a release notes page or something we can subscribe to get those updates?
Come to office
in
hours.
The Discord. Yeah, come to office hours. It's in the
Discord.
office hour Discord and in the ByteHive Discord that you get notified all the time.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jonas. We're going to have to do another Playout B build soon as people, I think it's coming. It's in our near future. All right, next question.
Next one's coming in from Ron in Montana. What is Discord and what is it used for?
Yeah, go ahead, Chad.
Discord is a platform that allows you to organize conversations by category or by channel mostly used for text. There are voice and video capabilities. Office Hours doesn't really use the voice and video, but I'll tell you that Jonas's announcement came out through his Discord and notified me this morning that Playout B had an update. And if 5 to 13 hours of office hours a day isn't enough, that's where we continue the conversation here with challenges and labs and links and files and all sorts of interesting things.
Can you push an announcement to all the Discord? How do you do that?
You can. We discourage that because if you've got more than 1,000 people who have the ability to send a message to everyone, it gets pretty noisy. But you can send out announcements.
But can just the administrator do that? We can probably set that
an
up.
admin can do that. Yeah.
I didn't even know that. All right.
Sure.
Go ahead, Sky, and then Jonas.
I'm just going to say it's a collective community connecting device, because it's what we're used to doing is an email. Originally, it was the snail mail, and then an email, and then we started doing texting, and then and these are a way of collecting information and connecting with people in one location, rather than right now I don't have to check my text, I don't have to check my email, I don't have to look if the postman comes. So it's a hybrid, and we're seeing this in another iteration is called Slack.
When I talk to corporate folks, I just say it's Slack for the kids of all ages.
Well, and we're seeing a lot of this in the Teams component as well. Teams is doing this hybrid of an umbrella of connectivity of concepts. So it's not your father's email.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, it's a way to really continue the conversation once the conversation has finished with the group that you're with. My students and I use Slack more so than Discord, but really it started in the gaming community just to keep the conversation going. And it is a great way to keep the conversation going.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rupert.
I just wanted to clarify the hierarchy. So Discord is a ecosystem, I guess, if you like, and then other communities like Office Hours will have their Discord server, and then below that you'll have different discussion channels. So if you become a user on Discord, you'll need to find the right servers to connect to, Office Hours being an example.
And one of the things that's funny, you'll see me encourage people when they join our Discord server that you use a picture of yourself over white. So you use an actual picture of yourself, not an avatar, over white. And part of the reason for that is it's like a secret handshake. When I go to other Discord servers, I know who's in Office Hours. So I see them post, and I'm more I lean more towards them because I know that they're part of the clan. Go ahead, Jonas.
And one thing that I see a lot on Discord is events that are not just a one-time event, but are like once a month. Start building really big communities on Discord. And like for me, I have a Discord for my software, and it's amazing to see when I'm asleep, some other people is like, oh yeah, I had that problem, I'll just jump in, because it really helps building community. And John Barker's Discord is amazing too. It's just like Discord has done really cool things to cater to community. This is like has amazing features. Like everything is there if you want it.
It's like it's like what happens when we're not limited by vBulletin. Like vBulletin was what a lot of us used 20 years ago. The entire Pixel Core ran on vBulletin. 16 to 18 years ago. And this is, to me, it's just another bulletin like that, except that it's much more flexible, it's much more powerful, but it's the same thing as a bulletin board that we had in the past. And for me, it's been this culture of having, like, it's an automatic thing that if I'm going to start building a community, my days go all the way back to the AOL forums that were in the early 90s, which is basically how I got a job at ILM. So, the reason that I build these things is specifically because what I did, just to kind of give you a sense of how I did that, now that we're talking about this on a Saturday morning, is I didn't know anything about 3D. I got excited. I was excited about the idea. I saw videos of it. And so in 91 or 92 or 93, I read an article about night space rangers, and they used electric image, and read a bunch of things about John Knoll. And I was like, I want to work for John Knoll. Like that was the thing. So I just read everything that was about John Knoll, and he used electric image and Form Z. So I was like, I just found the reseller for electric image and Form Z, and I walked in and I said, here's the deal. I'll work for free. I can't afford the software. It's $7,500. I'll answer questions and everything else for free and everything else if you just give me access to it. So he gave me a key to the office, and I just was there all the time when I wasn't working. I was a designer for Prime Sports Network. So I did print design, not any 2D, just print design for them. And anyway, so I would spend my time there. And what I would do is get on the AOL forums. Back then, all these AOL, I don't know what they called them back then, but they were basically forums. And the electric image one, because it's $7,500, was all broadcast guys. Like they're all broadcast and film guys. There's no one else could afford it. I would just simply read through it. Someone would post something in the evening. I can't figure out how to do this. Then I would pull all-nighters figuring it out, like just trying to, because I figured they know way more than I do, and all I have, and so I would sit there and do searches, and there was nowhere else to learn electric image. There wasn't any Googles or anything else like that. So I would just go through the manual and bang my head on it. And if I didn't figure it out, then I would just let it go. But if I did, I would come up in the morning and very casually go, "Hey, I saw your email. You might want to try this," and just put this little and I would just put these little notes in, like it came off the top of my head, not like I spent 12 hours trying to figure it out. And what I did is I created this persona for me in the electric image forum that was much bigger than the actual person. So because I didn't ask a lot of questions, I just answered them, and it also guided me. I learned all the things I needed to know about electric image because I was answering questions by people who were doing what I wanted to do. And so by working those answers all the time, it was because there wasn't a class to go to for electric image. All there was to do is just learn it. Anyway, so as things moved forward, I finally was able to buy electric image, and I just kept on doing the same thing on the AOL forums. And so then when electric image, then what happened was electric image was looking for demo artists. And so I became one of the short list. They pinged me, said, "Hey, you want to demo, be a demo artist at NAB or whatever." So then I got free trips to NAB, which I thought was great. But now I knew electric image. And so then I was in there able to ask them questions. When Lucasfilm was looking for artists for a new thing called pre-visualization, no one had really done it before. So when they're looking for previs artists, they pinged electric image and said, "Who should we look at?" And electric image gave them 3 names. And I mostly ended up there because Coley Wirtz and Andrew Hardaway said no, didn't pay enough. So they ended up at ILM, and Coley Wirtz, if you search Coley Wirtz, it's like one of the most amazing artists. And I haven't worked with Andrew as much in the past, but Coley, he does napkin sketches that you would put on in a frame. So I was not in their league, but I was willing to work for less and work really, really hard. But that's how that's the picture of it. And so the reason that I create these forums, and the reason I'm kind of going off on this for a little while, is that, the Discord is there as an opportunity, not just to learn, but when you produce use into a community, you build yourself up into a point where, so producing use into a community is how you can build up, you'll get work out of it over time. And work shows up. You can't be trying to get it. Like people can sit there and try to network. But the best way to network is to help other people, and so, help other people fix the problems that they have right now, not worry about that, and obviously there's a point where it starts to get to a point where I need to get paid for it. But spending that extra time helping others be successful gets you into into that cycle. And so I've always, every time I've done something, I've created a forum to do that. And so that when I came out of ILM, I created the Pixel Core, and the first thing we did was create a people. And, and so when we did this, I had to figure out which format to create around office hours. I was a little resistant at first because I didn't know how long office hours would last. But Chad and Phil and some of the other folks were like, okay, they did all the research, and Jeffrey, and they did all the research on which one we all came to Discord. To bring it all back, we all came to Discord like this is the right one to do it. But I would definitely, use the opportunity of being on the panel and then also helping others in Discord as a way to, constantly build. I'll tell you over and over again, the number one investment. People will talk about real estate and stocks and everything else. Always, 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 the number one investment you'll make in life is people. Being part of a community, protects you from everything else. And it, the other stuff can go up and down, but having real connections with people that you really made a difference for is the most stable lifestyle, and it's just really important. And you see a lot of people here who do understand that. So anyway, that's it. Let's go to the next question.
Next one's coming in from Ian Alford in London. How good will the new iPad Pro be for HDR monitoring, editing on a Mac?
If only Charles was here. Oh, he is. He's here.
If only Charles had an iPad Pro.
If only he does. So did you test it?
Yes. Okay. And all right, so there's gonna be a lot of tests going on. I got it 22 hours ago at the end of yesterday's office hours,
No
and I
excuses.
ran out and it came in. Anyway, all right. So the HDR, it's great. The first thing I did was I went to Netflix. I checked it out. I wanted to see the zoning because the big issue that we had with the XDR was you could see the zones coming in and out and the blooming of
Can you
such.
explain zoning?
Because the zoning is the way that they backlight the screen, right? And the way that we had it in the past was that they would light the entire screen. Like a MacBook Pro 16-inch, it's lit completely from the back. And then you get the darks and the color from a few layers on top of that. But that is just on, which is why you don't get true blacks. So what they've started to do the last couple of years is this zoning where they will pick apart the screen into different zones, and depending on what type of footage you have,
And
if
how many
it's a little.
zones?
So this has, okay. So the iPad Pro, this has 2,500 plus zones made up of 10,000 LEDs, right? So each zone is of 4 little lights, which I found interesting that they're actually offset a little bit. And I haven't seen that before. And I wonder if Apple, that was like their own way of building it, which is cool because it becomes a little bit more organic and you can't see the
Right.
pattern as well, which is nice. Okay. I do like the algorithm that they have so far. You can, okay, I can't see them coming on and off. I do see a little bit of the blooming, but just, and this is me just nitpicking. I see a little bit of blooming. If they keep the same density per square inch on their future products, like an iMac Pro, it's gonna be impressive because it's the closest thing to a professional style of OLED that I have seen. And even to this day, a bunch of people that I know still use the older Sony 300 instead of the new 310 because the new 310, it gets a little brighter, but if you get off angle, it turns a little yellowish and it starts to lose contrast. And the more off angle you get, the worse it gets. Now, the OLED, you don't get that because you don't have those films in the panel to create that. It's just 1 pixel, color and brightness on that same layer, and you're off, which is what you want when you're trying to make decisions in color and HDR and contrast. Okay, that being said, I was trying the sidecar. I haven't gotten it to work properly. I didn't get it to trigger HDR or anything. The best thing that I got, and I'm sure that is something that I'm doing wrong or that they're going to update. I got it to mirror my laptop screen, and I was able to get that on the iPad. Even though they're mirroring, there was a small shift of color. And at least to my eye, I noticed it. It's a small shift, and that made me a little uncomfortable, but I believe that has to do more with the way that Apple does the color management, which is something that as colorists, we're always trying to work around so that we get a true feed. So the next thing that I did, I called Blackmagic. I was talking to them about, hey, do you guys know if we can get a clean feed from Resolve? They were like, it's too new. We're not exactly sure. We don't even support that. But with Dub coming up in a couple of weeks, this just coming out, I'm sure the conversation is being had behind closed doors and
Right.
on some level. That being said, I started to do HDR test between renders on my Flanders and rendered out H.265s to the iPad through Frame.io and AirDrop, and HDR kicked on. Yeah, so that was really, really
How
good.
did it look?
It looked great. Looked really good. That's what I was going to send you, and it was 3:30 in the morning. I'm like, I'll message Alex tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, but so you would say that if we can get it working, that there is a high probability you could use it as not as the final say, but what we're looking at is, should we, if we're doing a bunch of HDR work, number one is recommend to our clients or even get our clients, these iPads, and have key people in our company have the iPads so that everyone's looking at the same screen. Like when we're talking about something, and it seems like it's close enough to the Flanders that would be, reasonable if they're not going to have a Flanders.
Yeah, I did notice a minute bit more of yellow in the higher end midtones, and I'm trying to figure out where that was coming from, but that's just me nitpicking. But for what it is, there's one thing that I noticed that was really, really strange. I would send HD frames and video, and I could see some of the softness on my large monitor. I could see some of the softness on these monitors here. On the iPad, it became really sharp. And they have to be doing some sort of processing. I found that out late last night, so I'm going to do some more tests today. But to answer your question, I think that Apple is heading in the right direction. If you know what you are doing as far as the signal and the PQ and how to grade and the limitations of the technology, it's amazing.
That's great.
And I think a lot of people are going to have a wonderful time just investing in this, if just for productions, but even as just as a product. Like as soon as you turn on Netflix, you see, it's.
I gotta tell you, it's. I haven't had the Magic Keyboard before. I finally got it with this one.
I'm thinking I'm going to get it because right now it's not leaving my room until I get a case. Like, it's just, but it's amazing. It's a nice screen. I'm really hoping that they keep the same density for the larger screens. If they do that,
good time. Go ahead, Sky.
Well, Charles, I'm curious about the distance, because as Google Glass was right up on you could fill your brain with a visual image with Google Glass or a goggle concept. So I know they say that there's how many inches per distance you should have so many people. What is that? Help us educate us with that algorithm. If you got a 70-inch screen, theoretically you can only have so many people and that's so much distance. So I'm curious, at what distance do you view the new iPad?
Right. So this goes back to the point that Alex made. This is just as a QC monitor. This is not to do your main work on. This is to make sure that you can send it out to people. Now, apologies, there is a proportion between distance to screen and screen that we have used, and my apologies, I can't remember exactly what it is. I believe that mine is about that. I have a 55-inch screen, and if we break out our handy dandy tools, we are roughly 5 feet away. But there is a proportion that you're supposed to sit at for 32-inch screens and largers, where you actually can start to fill the frame. But just as a personal device, it's nice. It's portable. It does what it needs to do. I wouldn't try and grade an entire movie on it, because you will start to lose small details unless you can zoom in, and that's just going to get exhausting. But it's very promising. I'm very excited in the direction that they're going. There's a lot of questions in my mind, and we're all trying to solve them right now. And there's a lot of people that are getting their iPads in July that are frustrated that they waited a couple of minutes to order, because it was just a matter of minutes.
It was like minutes between May and July. Yeah.
No. So that the iMacs experience has that matrix of how many people, because the original concept of iMacs was what can it perceive your perceptive at 33 degrees, and somebody said the projector of an IMAX projector can actually reach the moon. It is that bright.
Next question.
Next one's coming in from Liberty White in Atlanta. We shot content for a client in ProRes 422. The production truck for TV is unable to read the files. I'm told it's an old truck. What's the best transcode solution for them to edit for TV?
Yeah, go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I would request for a spec sheet if that truck accepts file-based, delivery. But if they go all the way back to HD cam, then hey, it works.
Yeah, I think that what I would probably do is the first thing that I would do is do exactly what Mickey said, is to ask for a spec sheet, like what are you used to getting. The other things that I would do is just to figure out is I would render it out in DNX and MP4 files. They may have some little recorder, little playback system that can only do MP4. That might be the part, but I would do MP4, H.264 moves, DNX. And just as a joke, I'd probably send them an ABI. How's that working for you? So anyway, if they're old trucks, they may go, that's great.
Interlace.
Then you should never, ever. Oh yeah. And the other thing to know is that if you are, interlace is they may not be able to read a progressive frame in an older truck. It's 1080i, that those trucks are running at. But Mickey's answer is the correct one, which is they have to tell, if they can't play it back, they have to tell you what they can play back. The transcoding something to whatever they need is not that hard. But figuring out what they need might be if they're on an old truck. But those would be the ones that I would jump on first. What is the base format for? I think an EVS is a MPEG-2. I think it's MPEG-2 TS, which is would be really funny to deliver that. So anyway, so usually what you would do is you'd play it out. The other thing a lot of times we've done with EVSs, for instance, is that we have a system that will play it out from our laptop, and we play it into the EVS. So the EVS just literally records it live, going in, because it was instead of trying to push files to an EVS, if that's what you're trying to do with the truck. Usually when I think trucks, I think EVSs. And so when you have an EVS, a lot of times we would use even things like Playback Pro or whatever, and just play it into the truck, and then the EVS would pull it out. And when I show up at a truck, I always have my laptop, but I always have something like a decimator or something else that I can just give the truck what it needs, and I'm just going to pass it through there into the truck, and then we just play it out into the EVS, and the EVS has it. Rather trying to figure out a file format for the EVS is not a happy experience. It's just easier to play it in. All right, next question.
Next one's from North Sargent and Fullerton. He's here on the panel, and he asks, can Alex explain the change over the next week / the other setup office hours is moving to?
It won't change too much right yet. So there's a progression of what we're going to do. The first step is that we are going to start. We've been doing tests on and off for months. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start. I don't know if it'll be Monday. It may be Tuesday or Wednesday, but we'll start screen grabbing the, basically pulling an output and then just streaming it. So it's basically we can create an event in YouTube ahead of time. We're going to grab it and screen scrape it as an attendee. So that a computer will join as an attendee. It'll go full screen, and it will then just stream it out. And so that's step one. Step two is when we do interviews and when we bring people in, we will start to, when we get to the second hour, for you as a panelist, it won't change the view very much. You'll see what you see, but for the people watching on the other end, they'll see a 2-up or a 3-up, and the people coming in will be slightly delayed because they're going to be going through our hardware and then back. But the idea is that they'll join. So you'll still see them in this group. They'll join as a person in the group, but their feed will be going out to something. And one of the things that's going to be a call for action next week is that I need to find people who want to run the switcher. So because this will add a whole nother layer of people. If you think about Mad in the Kitchen, just think like we have to start adding that layer of people every day. So we have to figure out who wants to work on those types of things to start working on it. The next step after that gets more interesting, which is that it will be, so I'm talking to Andy about using Zoom ISO to basically pull the entire panel out of the system. So basically we would just pull the whole panel out of the system and put it into a constellation. And now you're sitting there and then figuring out, again, it'll be a little chaotic at first, but for the end user, we're not talking about as much the panel will still feel like the panel to us, but to the end user, there's 2 ups and 4 ups and 6 ups. And, there's a lot of things all happening, in between that and starting to break it up. And we'll get more particular about everyone sitting in the middle of the frame because we may not use 16:9 frames as we go into that. We'll kind of condense it into square frames and make sure that everybody's centered. And so things will start to get much more hectic. We're doing a larger activation on June 7th. And so we want to, a lot of this will be us trying to figure a bunch of this stuff out as we go. So the next 2 weeks will be a lot of pushing into a new look and feel, as we go through it. But all summer we'll keep on evolving it. But I have a feeling that we're going to get to a point where there's 10 or 15 people working every morning on doing it, but we're going to get really good at it. Like the big thing is that if you're working on this, you'll know more about virtual production than probably anybody in the world, because you will be doing more of it. Because it happens. We're taking advantage of the fact that it happens every day. Now we'll probably take weekends off. So probably go back to what we're doing here on the weekends, and then 5 days a week. And that's why I've been telling everyone they need to get radio quality mics, and we need to improve the quality of the video and everything else, because it's going to look a whole lot different and feel a lot different. And we just want to make sure that we keep up with the quality level that the system is capable of. And so, but it'll, what I want to make sure with people, when we start doing this, if you don't have a good video signal, you don't have a good audio signal, you'll just really stand out, because it won't look like Zoom anymore, and so and I just don't want people to feel self-conscious, because they will definitely not look as good if they don't have it. Anyway, that's where we're going with it. We'll be using a lot of stuff, probably some stuff that John Barker makes, or we'll ask John Barker to make some stuff for us. So because the goal will be to how do we manage this over, all those pieces. I mean, right now I've been playing around. I mean, the Mix FX Pro is something that is going to be a key piece of how to make this all work. And then figuring out where that ends and where John's work starts, or back and forth. But we need something where we can have lots and lots of super sources that we're just going tag, 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 tag. What we really need to figure out is how to integrate Zoom OSC into the super source process, so that you can be tag, tag, tag. So there's a way for us to tag, 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 and have those all pump out into the super source, and not have to select them inside the ATEM. And there's a whole bunch of there's this tie-in that has to happen to make all of this work. And I think that the possibility is over the summer, we'll have the most advanced, Zoom-based broadcast system in the world.
Well, let me know where I can sign up.
I'll let you know. Probably Monday, Sunday or Monday. I'm going to put out the Q&A. I actually have a moment to breathe. One of the things that's made a big difference for me is that Nate has basically taken over Mad in the Kitchen, which is, I had a huge production yesterday. And I was like, I can't even make it to the rehearsal because I was still loading out, and didn't matter.
We missed you, and it was a lot of fun tonight. It's a hoot.
Yeah. So anyway, but I'm now getting a little bit more breathing room. So so I'm going to put out a request for volunteers for people to start playing. And we should know as a group that things will get chaotic and they won't always work. Like we just, we're about to go into a gestation stage where there's a lot of chaos. But what comes out the other end is going to be, I think it'll be better than a broadcast show, because we're going to eventually go to 4K. So it'll be, because we have all these 1080p streams. And so the delivery of it will be in 4K to YouTube. And so that'll be a lot of fun. Anyway, that's coming. Next question.
Man, that sounds like a lot of fun. All right, Carmi Vineswig in Redondo Beach, California, following up from my question from yesterday. Suggestions for gear recommendations for people looking to improve their Zoom presence at 3 price points: under $750, under $2,000, under $5,000, not including a computer, just mic, camera, mixers, switchers, lights, etc. Not to send out, but to own.
Okay, go ahead, Rupert.
So at the under $700 mark, I'd go with a Brio. That's going to be a couple $100. A similar amount on a decent USB microphone. Shure, I think, has some podcast type microphones around that price point, or the Yeti microphone, something like that. A nice light setup, probably a similar budget on that, 150 to 200. You could get a nice ring light or a NAN light package in that price point. And then a decent pair of in-ear monitors, preferably. I think that it would all get in under that 700 price point with a little bit of change left over for maybe some sound treatment, sound blanket, and an Ethernet cable if you don't have that already.
Go ahead, Charles.
So I'll start at the top, which is, it's basically what I'm working with. I would get the Pocket 6K. I like the picture. That's about $2,000. I would definitely get a Mix Pre 3 with noise assist. Thank you, Mickey. That's about $1,000. I would also get the ATEM Mini Pro. That's what I'm using. That's all I need. That's about $500 right now. I would go for, let's say, 2 of the 9-light 100s, you know, to just get that nice softness. And then I would buy like a Behringer P1 just to add some color to your backdrop, just so you have a bit of difference, contrast. A Heil PR40. And that will get you around $4,500.
Your lens. What's your lens on your camera?
Mine is going to get you way over. So pay that no mind. I have a Zeiss Milvis 50 that I have, yeah. I had it,
of course,
modded for cinema from Duclos lenses in California. So yeah, but pay that no mind.
You didn't have a cook just laying around?
Yeah.
I mean, I could have called Guy, but
I prefer the Angenu, you know. So you know, for my webcam, and so it's go ahead, Jeffrey.
So I was thinking about the 750 price point. The problem is you're going to want to get at least an i5 or a Ryzen 5.
No, we're not doing that. No computers. Just the. He said no computer.
It says including computer. Just mic.
It says
not including computer. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. So yeah, then your best bet. You can do Brio. You can also do capture card and video camera, but you're still really fighting $750 mark. I think 1,000 is going to be your best price point.
We've done a lot of kits that way. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, I just want to remind everyone, and I don't know the last time he updated it, but Roscoe's been very good about keeping a list, particularly for the education community, about just aiming underneath that price point, because we know that the teachers can't. I mean, they can't do this stuff that I've even done, I mean, which is I've gone off the mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for us, in general, when it's something for somebody else, we've always sent them out with the little piles for the under 750. The piles are the Polsons, and that's because we don't know what their room's going to be like. If you know what their room's going to be like, a Yeti works actually really well. It sounds really good as an all-in-one. The MV7 is also a great solution, you know, for that, you know, as far as that solution goes. So those are 2 USB, and they keep it simple. I definitely, obviously, like the PR40. For the smaller kits now, so the 2,000 and under, we're using the. We've kind of started to go into the Nanlite Pavo 6Cs, Pavo 6Cs. 2 of them on either side, and we found that we had a lot of control having 2 of those, and they're not very expensive. They're like $100 each. And so we, you know, having 2 of those looks really good. The kit that I'm designing for when we eventually start sending stuff out for office hours will be 4 of those. So it'll be 2 on either side and then 2 in the back, so that you can light up the background in color and stuff like that. And that's in that, you know, the Brio is what we use up to the 2,000 range. So for us, when we start sending out the 2,000 ones, you know, we switch. The big thing we switch to is and this takes $2,000 to do. So that's why we don't. But the big thing we switch to is a Mix Pre 3 with a Countryman with noise assist. That's the big price point that we change, or a DPA, you know, one or the other of those. But changing the audio quality dramatically is the thing that we spend money on under $2,000. And we stick with the webcam, we stick with the Pavo tubes and everything else. When we go to the $5,000 kit, we don't really have a $5,000 kit. Ours goes to it goes from 2 to 15,000. And so for those, then we start using Nanlite 68Bs, you know, for those. But we're going to probably move to the mix panel 60s or 150s to send out for the bigger kits, because we can control them over DMX. So we're working on being able to control them remotely over DMX. And of course, ours has a computer and everything else in it. But in that $5,000 range, I agree with Charles that in my opinion, the right camera is the 6K. You know, is the, you know, for that. I'm not using the 6K today. I had to push my 6K into a shoot. And so and that's why the color isn't quite right, because I put this up so quickly yesterday that I wasn't able to put Charles's fine in there.
I didn't want to say anything.
I know. I just had to. It was in a rush, and I've been in production, so I had to throw it up for a meeting because I suddenly realized I had taken my 6K out and my tripod, and I had to build it up. So right now, my webcam today is a Blackmagic 12K. So this is my webcam. So I'm testing the 12K, and so the reason it's set up in this case, so it's the most absurd. I was like, this has got to be the most absurd webcam ever. It is. I will say that in my current testing, I'm testing mostly high frame rate, and in that the 12K is cute. Like I don't really care about the 12K. 8K 120 frames a second, I care about a lot. And one of the things that I'm working on is the reconstruction of 120 frame per second to 24 frame per second. So recreating motion blur from a high frame rate to a film frame rate because they're evenly divisible. And what's kind of cool about the camera is that it'll output a 5994 signal out of the back and record 120. So you could theoretically send out a live 60 frame per second signal, but record something that could be then recreated back to a 2398 signal. So that means you can deliver the filmmaker what they want, but you could also do a live output. And by recording 120 frame per second, I've been dealing with a lot of conversations about 120 frame per second. And, there's a lot of people have a lot of opinions about it, but I can tell you that 8K 120 frame per second HDR with a surround sound on a big screen, it literally is a different experience than anything you've ever had. Like it's so different that it's hard to really get your head around, there's three big places we'll see it first, which is sports and concerts and horror films. Like I realized there was a conversation that came up recently, like, oh my gosh, that would be the scariest horror film ever would be at that frame rate. And like people would literally might have to leave. Anyway, we're going to jump. We're running way over now. I thought we'd have no questions, and now we're running way over. So let's go ahead and go to the next question.
Yeah, now we know what Fenwick means when he says Alex drives the tank to the grocery store. 12K as a webcam. That's kind of over the top. Just a little. Okay, next one's coming in from Gabriel Lasordo in Milan, Italy, having to do a webinar with 4 in studio and 4 remote guests. He has a link to show. How do you suggest bringing the audio of the remote guests to the in studio ones? Would a couple of active loudspeakers be a viable option? I'm looking for a solution less expensive and easier to set up than in-ear monitors.
And we'll go fairly quick. Go ahead, Mickey, and then Rupert.
Yeah, for a space as small as that, no loudspeakers. You're going to get a lot of bleed in there if the space is that small. You don't have to run wireless IEMs. You can wire them up, fairly easy to set up and fairly inexpensive.
Yeah, go ahead, Rupert.
Yeah, avoid speakers. I would think you could actually do a in-ear monitor solution pretty inexpensively. I use these little headphone distribution amplifiers, so everybody gets their own pot. They can tune it into their own likeness, and also based on the picture, it looks like those microphone mounts might pick up some vibration. So I'd look at getting some isolating mounts on those microphones.
Next question.
Next one's from Rupert McRae in Dallas, Texas. What could cause a Zoom webinar to be 720p live on YouTube, but at 360 for everyone else in Zoom?
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, that is how Zoom webinar works by default without any special, please give us high def sauce in there.
It's exactly the way it's working as designed, whether you like it or not. Next question.
Next one's coming from Aaron Gencarle. How does the panel run their MixPre 3 directly into the computer, or do they pass it through an ATEM switcher?
Go ahead, Peter.
Well, I've done it straight into the computer most of the time, though I've recently started switching over to running the output into the 6K Pro and bringing it back in through the HDMI, but I've never run it straight into the switcher.
Go ahead, Chad.
I used to run mine through my ATEM Mini, and I just recently switched to just using the USB straight into the PC, and it knocked out a lot of the noise that the ATEM was adding. Yeah.
I would run it directly into the computer if I could. I mean, that's the way I do it, except different mixer, but same brand. Next question.
Jason Sipe in Murrieta, California. Any recommendations for a comm system that combines IP wired and wireless? Note, preferably less than $15,000 for up to 20 individuals.
That'll be Unity. I mean, like you're going to have to figure out a way to make it, you can do Unity. It will check off all of those things. Unity plus Studio Technologies Dante based comm boxes are probably under $15,000. So what you'll do is you'll use Unity Connect to connect it to a mixer or something like that. You can run those comm boxes are probably $300 or $400 each, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that there's maybe $400 or $500 each. But the handful of people that need them is just the Ethernet cable to each one of them. So you can then distribute that. Know that the mix minuses with the Studio Tech stuff is not trivial. Like it's a little bit of a setup to make that work. Because you have to you're building a mix minus for each one of them. They have a hub that you can use for that as well, but it's still a setup. so just know that that's not something you'll just plug and play. But no big comm system is. Then Unity will let you could use phones or iPod minis or iPod touches or whatever as your wireless, and then people can work them on a computer. So, what we use for most of the larger productions that we do are, ClearComm Eclipse, with Agent IC and FreeSpeak. With that solution there is about $100,000. so it's a little over your $15,000 range. But for under $15,000, I think that I don't know of anything under $15,000 that would do all three things that you're trying to do other than Unity. Does anyone have any? Next question.
Next one's from Bo Cordell in Charleston, South Carolina. What other Discord communities do people here enjoy?
We'll go really quickly. Go ahead, Charles.
I have two main ones. I have this one, and then I have another one that's just a bunch of colorists. I keep my life nice and simple.
Go ahead, Jonas.
I really like the one from John Barker. Here to record, the Discord is really amazing. There are a lot of people, and it's often a bit more budget conscious people.
Go ahead, Sky.
There's a couple of different faith-based houses of worship concepts that are very useful and very helpful and very supportive. A feature that I've been using quite regularly is the voice activation. So I mean, we can make phone calls from my car, from my mobile. That's pretty magical. To anywhere in the world.
Go ahead, Peter.
Well, I mean, obviously, besides this one, I'll plug a friend of yours. I really like his startup use of Discord, which is the Twit Club.
Yep. Yeah, I think the only ones that I've spent any time in is, 99% of my time is just office hours, but I also spend some time in the Twit Lounge or the Twit Club, as well as there's one called CG Lounge, which is an artist formerly in ILM or whatever, his his own little community. And then one that I use just to understand Discord, not so much that I deal with the conversations, is called Lo-Fi Girl. And it's the companion Discord for, if anyone's ever heard of Lo-Fi Girl on YouTube, which my kids do, which I feel they're like, oh yeah, I listen to that all the time. There's like 40,000 people listening to it live at any given time. And it's just kind of groovy background music. But the Discord shows me more about how Discord works, because they just have turned that dial all the way to 100. So, or maybe 110. And so when I'm looking for how people are using Discord, I use that one because it's just a much larger community than what we have. And obviously someone who's very advanced using it. Next question.
Next one's coming in from Rupert McRae. When sending custom video returns to remote participants, could tally signals be included in the video feed, maybe as a colored square in a multi-view or a colored border around the whole screen using some kind of macro?
That's actually our intention, is to get to a tally system. Once we start doing the returns, we haven't done that yet, but we're definitely planning on doing that as we start building more and more custom returns. Go ahead, Jonas.
Will you use like ATEM functions or have a small HTML-based program that you can overlay?
Currently, the thought is HTML. That we can use it, that we can just key over it. For that process. But we're not 100% certain. But you'll see that kind of stuff happening over the summer, as we start to dig into it. Next question.
Jonas Dowdle here on the panel from Reutlingen, Germany. Alex, how are you moving your Zoom rooms into breakout rooms?
They all just add. Go ahead, Nikki.
Yeah, a regular client, the host, which is being run on a regular client, just invites them to, or assigns them to go into breakout rooms.
And go ahead, Jonas.
you happen to know which version your Zoom rooms are on? Because ours can't move. Like I can't assign them anymore, which is pretty bad.
You can't assign a Zoom room to a breakout room?
When I go into the breakout room window and say assign, Zoom rooms don't show up anymore for me. For all the Zoom rooms I have access to.
We'll have to check that. Let's not update until we figure that out.
Don't
Are you in the
update.
newest version?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. That seems like a huge bug. So, yeah. Go ahead, Nikki.
And Jonas, you're doing this from a regular Zoom account? Or Zoom client?
Yes, I'm doing it from the regular Windows client.
Okay, well, we'll have to dig into that. That sounds like a massive bug. Yeah, that would be devastating for us. So we'll definitely take a look at it. And someone should send a note to Kevin if he's not watching, not to update anything. He doesn't usually do it on automatically. But next question.
Yeah, just on that note as well, it was in 5.4, I believe, that they added the ability for a Zoom room to join a breakout room. Previously, you couldn't. And then 5.5, so 5.5 was the version that they did that. And then 5.6, I believe, is the latest one. So I don't think anything's changed, but obviously it has. So today we'll see what happens. Otherwise, we can roll it back, Jonas, and see what happens. All right, next one is coming in from Ian Alford in London. Any platform suggestions if I want to make daily videos and worksheets available to members who are paying a monthly subscription? The platform should handle the memberships as well as serving the content.
The best platform for this, and it's not free, is Vimeo. I mean, it's across all the different platforms. It's going to cost some money to set up. You didn't say about how much, but as a turnkey, works on Apple TV and Chrome, everything. And it runs across those things, and it's membership driven and all those other things. It does all of the things at one time. Go ahead, Jonas and Jeffrey. Keep it pretty quick. We're way behind.
Another solution is Gumroad. There you can set up monthly prices. They do the hosting and they take pretty less. So I really like them.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeffrey.
Patreon's a great way to set that up for things. And of course, we were talking about Discord. You could actually set up your own Discord with monthly fees. You can give them a whole bunch of stuff, including audio and video as well.
I think that Leo uses Memberly. I think, is it Memberly, which he seems to like a lot as far as managing that as well. But like the big gun, like I want to make this work across all these different platforms, and I want to specifically do video and make those available across all the platforms, is something that Vimeo has been doing for a long time. Next question.
Next one's from Tim Holm in San Lorenzo. Does anyone know how to dial in the delay on the Behringer Flow 8? I am not finding any solutions through searching so far.
Go ahead, Tim.
I found it. It's not in the app itself, which you actually have to go into the menu systems. And, they tout the app, obviously, but you go in on the board itself, and there's an output section after you hit the menu key, and then you can choose to delay either the main output or monitor 1 or monitor 2. You have 3 choices. By the way, did I get my thing in sync now? I delayed it by about 100 milliseconds.
You're probably off
need
by
another,
a frame or two.
Yeah. Well,
Another what,
it feels like a bunch more, maybe another 120 milliseconds perhaps.
Okay, I'll be playing around with it. I'm just guessing right now. So thank you.
Yep. Next question.
Dale Nabetta in Oakland. Instead of buying a new iMac, since I already have an M1 Mac Mini, I'm looking for a good 17-inch monitor, preferably a 4K or 5K. Any recommendations?
17-inch monitor. Oh, yeah. Okay, good, Mickey.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, would you be able to really get
See
benefits from, see a difference at 4K or 5K on a 17-inch monitor?
I think at that point you really want to go to 24-inch if you want 4K or 5K, where you're actually going to see it. Noah, real quick, we're going to keep moving fast.
There's some portable ones on Amazon that I've used 17-inch, but that's...
Yep. Yeah. Next question.
JJ McKenna, Santa Venetia, California. For controlling Unity comms on a computer, is there a non-subscription based controller companion that one can use as an alternative to the Elgato Stream Deck?
I don't think there's a subscription, and once you buy the Elgato, go ahead, JJ.
Sorry, it was the pad version, the tablet version of the Elgato. It's $24 a year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Jonas, real quick. Oh, he's frozen.
That's a question. You can add it on Companion, and then you can just have the numbers from the key panel that you normally use with. So that's the solution.
Next question.
Seth Graham in Boston, Massachusetts. What are your recommendations for playout software that can run video files and live streams based on a time and date schedule, but all in AWS and output to an SRT stream? Running scheduled graphic overlays also a plus. And I would have said Softron, but that runs on the Mac. So AWS, this will be interesting.
Jonas?
Media Live has a way of scheduling different inputs and changing them. And if you compare that with the HTML overlay that I just added, you should be set with that.
I'm curious as to how clean the switchover. I mean, it won't be as precise because it takes a little bit of time for that to manage it. No, we lost Jonas. There he is. But yeah, Media Live should be able to do it. It'd be interesting. It'd be an interesting little lab for us to put together, especially with the HTML overlays. Next question.
David Brady in New York. Our delivery platform at the plant is Workforce by Facebook. When streaming direct from Zoom using custom live streaming or on the API, one click, it only delivers 720. If using a hardware encoder, we get the full 1080. Are there any settings to the stream key or API call that can affect this? Note, Workplace by Facebook. The kids like it.
So the 720 is all that Zoom will do. You have to grab the screen and put it out otherwise to get 1080p. Zoom just does 720p. And yeah, Workplace is extremely powerful for large organizations to work with, to manage those. I worked on it in pre-release days all the way through, and it's really built well for that thing. Next question.
Next one is one that we already covered, but I'll read it. Talalik asks if Charles would be willing to walk us through the iPad. I think that's the reason why we're a little late, because we enjoyed that conversation a little longer than we probably should have. Next one's from Noah Sargent. I was having issues with M1 Mac and ATEM Mini Pro HDMI connecting and disconnecting. The fix for me was USB-C to HDMI skipping a dongle. Just wanted to follow up with that question from a week or two ago.
With all of these connections, whether it's audio or video, the fewer things you have between the device and the computer, the better. You're absolutely right, and it's a constant problem. I would definitely try to skip any dongles or any kind of hubs or anything else to get through it. It's if any of those cause trouble, and it's one of the biggest problems I have with my iMac is that I only have 2, and so I'm using up my USB-Cs all the time. Next question.
Another one from Noah Sargent in Fullerton. I'm looking for a graphics operator for a live sporting event. Date to be determined, and it's early in the bidding process. Any recommendations? It's in LA.
Do they need to be local to you?
Ideally, yes, for this one.
I'll have to think about that. I don't know.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, and there is a thing. We have to do something that makes jobs more prominent inside of Discord. So we'll work on that too, because right now it's like help needed or looking for help or whatever. I think we build a jobs thing somewhere that is more driven for that, because it's not very visible at the moment. Next question.
Krikadoki in Toronto. How much of a fingerprint magnet is the new iPad?
It's
Have you heard of Piano Black?
Yeah, there you go. It's super black, so you see all those things. We're going to go just a little bit over, but we'll make sure we've got, I want to try to finish these questions. So go ahead, next question.
Jason Sipe in Murrieta, California. Converting SDI to NDI using a BirdDog Studio unit. We've had intermittent problems with seeing and connecting to the unit, but only receiving black video. Restarting doesn't always fix the problem. What could cause this issue?
This has been the number one issue with the BirdDogs. This is something that comes up often. I don't think a lot of us have seen what's causing it. It's been one of those things, like we don't know what is the source of that problem, but it is why a lot of people don't like to use BirdDogs for. This is the thing that people get upset about with BirdDogs. I think that Magewell also makes NDI to SDI and NDI to HDMI. And the people that I've talked to have been more successful with the Magewells than the BirdDogs. I think they are a little bit more expensive, though. I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't think anybody here has a solution because it's just been this intermittent problem that shows up across it. I think no one's figured out, like, if you do this and then turn this way and then go this way, it happens, or how to fix that. It's a good question though. Next question.
Next one's from Morgan Price in Victoria, British Columbia. How is Noise Assist compared to plugins for UAD Apollo Twin?
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, there's no real comparison because Noise Assist works as a multi-band processor, while anything that you would find within UAD's ecosystem that might do something similar would be just a regular gate.
Next question.
Jason Robert Shaw in Sarasota. After loading images into the ATEM media player, is it possible to rearrange them? Dragging doesn't seem to work. Do I just have to delete them and reload in the order I prefer?
Go ahead, John.
It's not pretty, but you can do a file save as to get the XML file, and just the media pool section will work. And you'll see all of the media pool images, and you can rearrange them in there and change the index and then restore that back in. So it's not so great, but it works.
So you can do that. I mean, I have to admit, what I do is I just put 1, 2, 3 before at the beginning of each one, and then they all come in alphabetically. So, but both of those should work. Next question.
Adam Barker in Bristol. Hi, does NDI support HDR? And if so, is there an app for the new iPad Pro that displays NDI HDR video feeds?
I don't think it currently supports it. I don't think NDI currently supports HDR. It's 10-bit, and I think I'm almost certain that NDI is a 8-bit format right now. Next question.
Good Varun in Lake Constance, Germany. What kind of small cameras with HDMI for outdoor use would you recommend? I'm getting ready for mobile dog training classes, and it often starts raining. People will be walking their dogs close to my tiny RV on empty parking lots. Moving dog owners will be recorded on an ATEM Pro ISO inside.
What I would consider for rain would be a micro with a box around it. A Blackmagic micro. With a box around it, with a motorized lens that you can kind of pull in. We've done it. We put them in security camera boxes, and then we hulled them out and put the little micro in there, and it's nice and safe and dry, and it does the thing that it needs to do. And that has been relatively successful in rain. And so that's the kind of the most compact. Once you start going down an ATEM Mini, stop thinking about other cameras. Like, I know everyone keeps on doing that, but it's just really, you're like getting half of what you paid for out of the ATEM Mini. When you can't shade your camera, you can't focus your camera, you can't, there's so many things you can't do. So once you buy into a Mini, you're buying into the ecosystem, but don't start, like live production with using other cameras. I just watch people almost everybody I've talked to that started with something else ended up with just buying Blackmagic cameras because of the interface. And they start with that because it's cheaper, but then they end up in the same place. Almost everybody. So it's just like a buy once, cry once moment there. Next question.
Next one's coming in from Sky Gleason in Seattle, Washington. Anyone have a recommendation for a pop screen for the Shure MV7 mic?
I would talk across it. Like it's that's like this, so it's got its own kind of pop filter there. The MV7, if you're getting hits on that MV7, I think you're not addressing it well. I think that the address of the MV7, but it's got the whole casing around it, right? Yeah, it's got its own pop filter. That's what that thing around it is. You just don't want to talk straight into it. Yeah. Next question.
Next one's coming in from John M. Gerard in Berkeley. What do you think about the new Blackmagic 6K Pro versus the old 6K?
Screen is a lot nicer outside. Like I can just tell you, like shooting with it, the much brighter screen. 2 XLRs don't hurt, going in, so that you have a little bit more, especially if you want to feed the mix into one and the time code into the other. It's useful. So that's another piece of that. Those are the two big things, but being able to move the screen around up and down and pull it out has been super useful. As far as the image quality, it's
built-in ND for you outside, right?
Oh yeah. The ND is good, useful too. Yeah. But as far as the image quality of the actual sensor, it's not much different. Next question.
Next one's coming in from Carmi Vineswig in Redondo. Alex L. mentioned the Magic Keyboard. Did he have the previous keyboard case? How does he compare them?
It's a lot heavier. It's a lot beefier, and it just is much easier to type on. The keys are better. So that's all I've used for the last 2 years is the other one, with my other iPad. My other iPad's about to become a Mix Pro station right there, like it's gonna, for my thing. So, so it's about to be pushed into the next part of its life. Anyway, so but yeah, the keyboard is way nicer than the last one. I mean, it's just that I've had. It just feels like it feels like you have a laptop. Like you just feel like you now have a laptop that you can touch the screen. And so I'm hoping that the next OS just lets us have a laptop that you can touch the screen, but we'll see. Yeah, it's just amazing. Yeah. Next question.
Yeah, Carmen, just to add to that, I've worn the keys off of all the previous generations. I've had all of them. This one, I have not worn the keys off. So I type so much on these things that I've worn the keys. You can't read any of the ASDF because I traditionally type, resting on those. It's gone on all of them. All right, next one's coming in from Sam Greenwood. Do you think Apple will ever update the iPod Touch with all the fancy iPhone camera stuff?
I don't know. I think they've kind of moved past it. I think that they're not going to give us any more things without cellular connections. It's a bummer because I really like them. Next question.
Next one is also from Sam Greenwood. Last one. What's a good advanced beginner photo camera? What's a good beginner? Beginner? There's 2 beginners in there. Video camera. And he has a note here that says Camera Mac, Photoshop. Whoa. Well, that was a tough one to read.
Yeah, that one kind of
did
came
we
in a
go
lot of
to
pieces
another
there.
language there?
The best beginner video and still camera, in my opinion, is an iPhone. Like just get that and then start shooting. There's a lot of things. There's some things that you'll slowly get Filmic Pro for it, so that you have some manual control and you can kind of play with it. But to me, that's where you get into it, and then you can start figuring out other things, with it. But because composition is the number one thing you're going to want to think about first. Composition, color, framing, storytelling. All those things are the things you can do with your phone. So if I was going to tell someone to do something, I wouldn't hand them something else that they have to start figuring out all the widgets, because if you're getting started, you're never going to really have to deal with those dials. As you get bigger, as it gets bigger, you're just going to end up with more touch screens. That's the direction a lot of this stuff is going. So you're not going to, there's not really any reason. And I started with a K1000, Pentax, all manual. It was great. But those days are over. So if I was going to start anybody, I would start there, because it's going to be your composition that is the most important thing. And you can start figuring out short depth of field and all the other things down the road. And the computational photography is going to allow you to continue to do more and more with the phone. So that's my 2 cents. All right. So we are running a little over. I apologize to our educators, but we wanted to finish the hour. We started with almost no questions. I thought, oh no, this is going to be the day where we didn't have any questions, and that didn't happen. So anyway, we're going to take 10 minutes to do mic checks. If you're an educator and you want to join the panel, then raise your digital hand, just raise your Zoom hand, and we'll bring you in to do a mic check real quick to make sure everything's working okay. But otherwise, go ahead and just we'll start jumping in. Mickey, are you sticking around, Mickey, or are you handing it off?
Yeah, is there anyone that I could hand off the cutting duties to?
Sky raises his hand.
Dun, 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 dun,
There we go.
Sky, thank you, Sky. All right. Do we cut off YouTube?
Yeah, we'll cut off.